Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It is Wednesday, December 30th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. A year ago, Star columnist Sam Mellinger and Vahe Gregorian batted around some ideas about what we expected to happen in the next decade, and I believe it was Vahe who forecasted the worldwide pandemic. No, just some sports predictions. We kept it simple this time, just looking ahead to 2021, but we do touch on the pandemic, along with the Chiefs, Royals, KU, Mizzou, K-State, and Sporting KC. We'll return a year from now to see how accurate our calls were, so I hope you enjoy the show that looks ahead. Let's get started. Okay, fellas, a couple of observations before we get into our conversation. First, before we started, I heard dogs barking and children playing in the background, and I can't think of a better soundtrack for a year-end podcast that talks sports than that. And the other thing I want to mention is I'm sitting at the table at the Star's office where the three of us sat around about a year ago and discussed the future. I think it wasn't let's look ahead to the next year, it was look ahead to the next decade. So today I'm sitting by myself. It's Tuesday, and we're going to run this on Wednesday. So I can't think of maybe a better scene than me sitting here alone in the studio talking to you guys on Zoom. I'm grateful that you're available to talk on Zoom, and maybe that should lead us right into the first question about sports in 2021, and that is, I want to know from you guys. Put on your medical, stethoscopes, and tell me what you think the first sporting event, championship event that we'll have. It might not even be in 2021, but what's the first championship event we'll have that has a full house in attendance? We don't know it's not going to be the Super Bowl. I don't think they've announced that, but it's not going to be the Super Bowl, obviously. So what do we think? Vahe, we'll start with you.
Well, I tend to lean World Series, which I think is a bit optimistic, actually, and maybe the better answer really goes on into 2022. But I tend to think that about that time, enough will have happened, whether it's, we've got the vaccinations in full, absolute deployment mode for a few months by then, and that it'll be understood that the measures in place have kept baseball on that trajectory. So it's just a guess, but I think there's reason to hope it could be by then. I think it's a lot to ask indoors by the spring or early summer, whatever it is that the NBA and NHL go to. It seems like too much to ask. And the prospect of outdoors in the fall, assuming it's outdoor games, that seems much better to me.
Yeah. So. Do you hear that?
Yeah,
of course.
Perfect.
I mean,
it sounds great.
I told them, do not bother me. I got to get on the call. Just give me 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever.
Which is absolute invitation to come in.
Yeah. Just FYI, my dog is growling right as that was happening, but luckily it's found out by your kids.
Yeah, their memories are short, I guess, but like a good cornerback. Short memory, but my answer, I think it's gonna be over the summer at some point. I don't know if that's the NBA. Are the finals gonna be like regular time of year? Or are they gonna
or maybe push
like
back
June,
a little
July?
bit? I haven't seen. I should know that, but I haven't seen it because
I think it's about the same time because it's a limited schedule, but I haven't specifically studied that either.
I feel like Vahe was saying he's optimistic, and by going into the fall, and I feel like I'm a weird combination of like optimistic and cynical with this answer because I think it'll be sooner. I think it's optimistic that they say right, and you never know. Everybody's guessing with this stuff, but that if you want a vaccine, you can have it by summer. That's what people. That's sort of the line that you hear. And I just think whether it's a golf tournament, maybe the Masters is a little bit too soon, or they kind of operate based on their own fiefdom. But I feel like whether it's a golf tournament, U.S. Open, something like that over the summer, these places are desperate for revenue. They need some money. People are going to be desperate to, experience these great tournaments, these great events. So I think it'll be over the summer, whether that's an NBA Finals in July, or whether that's, I can't think of the golf schedule right offhand. Everything got switched up so much. But I could see like a, U.S. Open, something like that, somewhere June, July, August in the summer. I feel like crowds will be back. And whether, I don't know if they can do this. I really don't know if this is legal, but maybe you have to show proof of a vaccine.
I don't know how that's going to happen.
And I really I don't know if that's legal. I don't know if you can do that. But if you can, maybe teams will do that, or events will do that.
Well, hearing you guys answer that question just leads me to think that sports might have a pretty awesome responsibility in that regard, right?
Yeah.
Because they'll enter sports and entertainment. That they'll be some of the most desired large audience events, and those churches, restaurants, other gathering places that have been off and on for most of 2020, but now we're talking about tens of thousands of people in one place. So I don't know. I color me a little more pessimistic than both of you. I'm gonna say the bowl season of 2021, and so we know that doesn't start until next December. I just don't. So much unknown out there. The immunity, the herd immunity. How are people are we gonna see so many anti-vaxxers that it's not going to be safe to gather in large numbers? Big decisions are going to, as they were in 2020. I think big decisions are going to be laid at the doorstep of the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, starting in the spring and the summer when it comes to at least championship events, and with baseball with their regular season. So I guess I'm a little more pessimistic than you. I hope both of you are correct on this, and that I am dead wrong. But
Blair, just a quick side point. I haven't thought about this before this very minute, but do you foresee a scenario? Are leagues or institutions talking about, well, we can open up if we get people doing proof of vaccination? I mean, could that happen in some form? Would that tilt the balance here a little bit? It seems like a lot of logistics to make something like that work, but you present your document when you get the ticket, when you show up. I don't know. I'm just making it up.
Yeah, well, think about it. So many tickets are purchased online anyway, and if you have to show proof of vaccination as you enter a turnstile, what's the percentage of people that need to be vaccinated where you feel safe, or there's safety measures are in place for that event? Listen, I don't think this has been much discussed, to be honest with you. I've looked around, and people are just trying to get through their seasons as best they can. And the NBA, the NBA season already has started. Right, started last week, and in empty buildings, and they had certainly had success in their restart in the bubble in Orlando. But yeah, I don't. I'm not optimistic. I think this is going to be a year of getting healthy, getting well, and then it's full steam ahead the following year. But we will get. I do think we're going to get a full season of baseball in, and full. I know that we're already in abbreviated NBA and NHL seasons, but maybe full. Full college football seasons, and so that'll be the next step in the return to normal sports is getting our seasons back before getting the fans back in a big way. Well, and speaking of baseball, let's turn our attention to the Royals, and I'm wondering what you guys think about the Royals' return to playoff contender status. The Royals have made some offseason moves that I really like. And does the the acquisition of Carlos Santana, Mike Minor, the re-signing of of Greg Holland, the other moves that the Royals have made. Is that enough to push them into a playoff contender level, especially when you consider that baseball is strongly, I think, right, strongly considering keeping the playoff expanded, the playoff bracket expanded. So, Sam, what do you think?
We're talking about the first year that they can be in the playoffs?
Yeah.
See, I believe in what they're doing in the broad strokes. I think that it doesn't take a lot of imagination to see this thing working. They need to hit on their position players at a higher rate than they do their pitchers. Just, it's a numbers game there. But Brady Singer looks the part from day one. And Chris Bubich has the stuff. And there's a lot of people that have seen all these guys and think that, Coer and Lynch and certainly Asa Lacy might be better than the two we've seen so far. So they've got talent. I get it that the bracket, like you said, could be expanded. They're just in the wrong division. I just look around and, the Twins are really damn good. And the White Sox, I think I've mentioned this before, but there's a person that's worked in baseball a hell of a long time, for my entire adult life. And, last year when the playoffs were starting, he was saying this is the most talented team I've ever seen. The most talented team I've ever seen. White Sox. And look, man, I don't know what happens with La Russa and all these other things, but they're loaded. And then Cleveland just always seems to have good players coming up. So that's and the Tigers. The Tigers are in a similar spot of the Royals. I think it might be fair to say they've got more high end talent, but the Royals have more talent overall, if that makes sense. So I'm rambling a little bit, but I just think there's factors outside the Royals' control is the point that I'm trying to make. I think realistically, the Royals internally probably project 2022 as the first potential playoff year, and just based on these other things, I might push it back a year or two and just say maybe 23 is when I would expect it to happen.
What do you think, Vahe? Closer to 500 than 21, and then.
I think so, Blair. And I was trying to hold on to words you used about the general feel of 2021, that it's a year getting better, getting healthy, and I thought, yeah, that's kind of what it is about the Royals next year. I have overestimated the Royals every year for the last 7 years, like where they are. Every year I think I see this, there's the glimmer, that's the nucleus, if this falls right. So I'm a little gun shy now. I do like what they're doing, and I think you can see the wave coming. I don't know if it's ready to splash on the beach yet, but I think that what we'll see this year is they've got a shot. If things fall right, I think they've got a shot, especially with the expanded version, to make a postseason, right? Just if things fall right. I tend to doubt it, but I do think 2022 is a year we ought to expect them to be able to be in that spot. Instead of just sort of hoping for it. Doesn't mean it'll happen, but I feel like they've got enough juice in the lineup and enough happening and coming with the pitching that why shouldn't they have a shot?
Lynn Worthy pointed this out in one of his stories before Christmas, that the Royals went 500 against the Twins and the Indians in the 60-game season. So they played them 10 times each, right? 5-5 against the Twins and the Indians. They were 1-9 against the White Sox. So they did compete against other playoff teams in their division, but couldn't hang with a team that has really improved, done a terrific job with their roster. And those
there were times where the Royals and White Sox were playing. It looked like they were playing different sports. It just looked like there was a huge gap between those teams. That was something.
Yeah, and that's the hurdle to overcome, right? And I liked what I heard Dayton Moore say about it. That's why we do this, right? We're in this thing to chase the White Sox. And the sad part is the Royals and the White Sox kind of started from the same place. A couple of years ago, Both were pretty bad, but the White Sox made a lot of great moves. Tip of the cap to Chicago, and see if the new manager works out though in in the Windy City. That brought some interesting comments. So, okay, let's do this. Let's take a break here, and when we come back, we will switch to a little bit of college sports and the Chiefs. Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners: unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. We are back with Sam Mellinger and Vahe Gregorian. We're talking about what to expect in sports in 2021, because there is nobody more qualified to predict the future than Sam, Vahe, and myself. Yeah.
Greskins all.
That's right. That's right. Let's talk a little bit about college sports. And my question to you, let's start off with this. Because it's basketball season and we're at the doorstep, or not the doorstep, but we're the early part of basketball season. Missouri off to a fantastic start in Conzo Martin's third year, and Kansas is off to a fantastic start as well. Who goes farther in the NCAA tournament this year, the Jayhawks or the Tigers? As we speak, Kansas, I think, is third in the AP poll, and Missouri is 12th, which is fantastic to see for college sports fans in Kansas City and of those two schools. So, Vahe, I know that you are going to go see the Tigers play tonight. I say tonight because this is out on Wednesday, recording it Tuesday. But you're gonna not go see, but you're gonna write off of the Missouri-Tennessee game, and I think a lot of it's another big statement opportunity for Mizzou.
It is, and you know what? They've made the most of each of these situations. Even really kind of a crummy outing against Bradley, they could take a lot from that with the way they came back to win, and of course they've had some good resume wins against Oregon in Omaha and
Illinois,
and the Illinois game was really a standout win. And I like what the team is all about. I like how they play together. I like the versatility, the veteran aspects. Pardon me, if you can hear the scratching in the background, by the way, that's a dog needing to create its nest on the couch next to me.
Of course. I think you should let that dog in.
Okay, I just wanted to. It's just scratching the couch, which you probably didn't hear until I said it anyway. But
oh no, we heard it.
But to the fundamental question, I think we'll see for ourselves in the Sweet 16 meeting between the teams in the Indianapolis bubble.
I like that. Let's settle it once and for all. Listen, they were supposed to play this year, right? On was it the third Saturday in December?
Yeah, the day that Missouri ended up playing Illinois, actually, with the shuffled schedule.
Right, that was the first of the 6-year series, which now and it was going to be at the T-Mobile Center. That game gets pushed back to the end of the contract, and so the rivalry renews starting next season. I think at Lawrence. It goes Lawrence, Columbia, and then 2 in Kansas City, if I'm not mistaken. But okay, so you're saying a winner of the Sweet 16 game in Indianapolis in the Midwest region would be a 2-3 game or a 1-4 game. If the seeds, that by seeding, that's what it'd be. I don't think we would see one of those teams as an 8 or 9 against a 1. So, all right, Sam, who goes farther, Tigers or Jayhawks?
First of all, that would be just a gift of content if we got that game in so many different ways. I love Missouri. watching them for all the reasons that Vahe just said. They seem to um, they seem to enjoy playing with each other, and it's one of those teams that they make each other better individually. That's what it seems like to me. Just we're still obviously early. I'm going to say Kansas goes further, and this is kind of just like a chalk kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like until I see Missouri go deep in the tournament, we've seen it from Kansas. I know they're not as talented as some of these past teams, but they still got a lot of good players. And I'm just going to bet on track record here and say Kansas.
Okay, a couple things. I think Missouri, and Suichi and I were talking about this earlier in the week. Suichi Terada, who covers the Tigers, Missouri was built for a COVID season. They're experienced. They got some injured players last year who are healthy this year, and they didn't have to worry about not having the non-conference schedule or build their confidence. That's sort of the thing that's getting Kentucky right now, right? That's Missouri came in as an experienced, healthy team, and I think they were prepared for this season. With Kansas, man, Jalen Wilson has been a revelation, and the way that Ochai Abaji's been playing and shooting, what about Bill Self being able to adjust his style, losing the best shot blocker and player around the basket in the country in Udoka Azubuike last year, and a true point guard, Devon Dotson, playing without the true big guy and without the true point guard, and he still makes it work. We talked about Missouri's big victories. Kansas beating Creighton, Kentucky, and West Virginia and Texas Tech already this year. Just a marvel at the job that Bill Self is doing. I don't know if they'll end up being better than Baylor or even Texas, two teams that haven't played yet. But it's I just think it's just so typical of Bill Self to figure out a way with this roster.
It's funny too. I mean, look, I get that they get pretty good players there, but I do think it's easily overlooked how many times he's just kind of got to really work with a whole different set of circumstances. I just think tip of the cap, as you noted, to how he's done these things.
And I'll go with Kansas a little farther. Go ahead, Sam.
Well, Jesse Newell wrote a really good piece about this a few weeks back. Bill has a way of taking bad breaks and turning them into growth, into good. Like he has a way of sometimes he'll get forced into, and maybe this is a sign that he should make these decisions before he's forced to, right? You can criticize there, but he has a way of if he's got to go with four guards, then he just, oh, wow, this looks pretty good. I'm going to go with four guards. He's got a way of sort of circumstances force the team to shoot more 3-pointers. This is one of the examples that Newell brought up. I think Azubuike, they weren't sure if he would play a game in Austin, maybe his sophomore or junior year, something like that. And Bill said, we got to shoot 35 3-pointers or something to win this game. And they ended up shooting 37 or something like that. And then they started shooting more 3-pointers. They became more efficient. There's just he's very, and I think this is an evolution. I think in the first 2, 4, 5 years that he was at Kansas, a fair criticism could have been that he was stubborn, and that it was if he had a square peg, he was going to try to use it no matter what shape the hole was in. And I think that he's evolved in a really brilliant way to where he can play these different styles, and is out of timeouts and late game play calls, especially out of bounds plays. It's just he really is like you said, Vahe. He gets good players. Kansas does not. It's kind of funny when when they're they don't get to do it very often. So if there's ever a chance that they're not the heavy favorite, it seems like, oh, plucky Jayhawks, with,
right.
Only 6 McDonald's All-Americans and 5 future millionaires on their roster. But he really does make it work with a lot of different styles. It's cool to watch if you're a basketball nerd.
Totally agree.
Okay, when we talk about Kansas State, and Missouri football programs, they're all led by coaches who are in there who just completed their first or second years in that program, right? Chris Kleiman at K-State, Eli Drinkwitz at Mizzou just finished his first year, and then Les Miles at Kansas. And certainly Kleiman and Drinkwitz have had really nice starts to their tenures at their schools. Les Miles a winless season in year number 2 at KU. So my question to you is, will Kansas reach a bowl game before Kansas State or Missouri finish first or second in their league or division in their conference? And the reason I posed it that way is because the Wildcats and Tigers have finished first in their division or league since Kansas has appeared in a bowl game. The 2008 season was the last time KU was in a bowl game, and the last time they had a winning record. And Kansas State shared the Big 12 in 2012, and of course Missouri was in the SEC title game as the East Division winners in 13 and 14, their second and third years in the SEC. So, what do you think, Vahe? What happens first? KU in a bowl game, Missouri wins the East, or K-State finishes first in the Big 12?
Well, it is a multifaceted question posed well, like one of those ninja stars coming at you. Like there's a lot here. Let's remember that Missouri hasn't won an actual conference title outright all the way since 1969?
69. Yep.
But that's not the question. It's just part of the thing. Look, I'd say this about what we've seen from these coaches. Obviously, Les Miles has the resume, but I don't feel like I see much traction here right now with Kansas. I don't know that they're coming out of this quicksand with Les Miles. And certainly we've seen a lot of upside to what Chris Kleiman's done at K-State. Some surprising inconsistency, at least from the outside looking in. To me, I thought they were beyond a few things, but I really like where they're going. And I think nothing but promising with Drinkwitz right now, who I think did a little more than maybe we might have expected this year. But I think also, we've seen that they are at best middle of the pack right now. They're not near the top. So we've got to see them through all these recruiting cycles, a good few years till you really understand. But if I'm just, hedging, making a guess here, I'd say we'd see K-State and Missouri both achieve those milestones before Kansas is in a bowl again.
Yikes.
Look, I don't mean to kick dirt on a program that's already got enough of it, but what's the great stat? Yeah. Isn't the stat Missouri has more Big 12 wins since 2010 than Kansas has? I think that's an actual stat. I actually think that I think Les Miles is a little bit overwhelmed with this job, but I actually think that they're doing the right things there. I think some of the roster construction and the shortcuts that his predecessors took with JUCO kids just left the roster numbers just upside down. And I think that Les Miles has been pretty disciplined at going after high school kids and getting them in the program and trying to build it, what I would consider the right way or the more lasting way to build it, not a house of cards, but to actually have a foundation there. And so I think it's possible. You can imagine that working to some standard, a lower standard than bigger programs. But I don't think it's out of the question that Kansas. I don't know if it'll be Les Miles doing it, but I think that the foundation they're building is more solid than what David Beatty and Charlie Weiss were doing. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make right now. All that said, if you're making a bet and you're betting on Kansas making a bowl game, I get that the standards for making those things have been lowered and there's all kinds of bowl games, but I think that's a bridge too far for me. And I think that what Drinkwitz has done, Vahe just mentioned, he just kind of exceeded some expectations. There's a little bit of a honeymoon thing going on there, and they're going to run into some tough times, just like everybody does, and we'll see how that goes. But he's immediately elevated that program. There's an energy, there's a belief. They just play differently. They just look different on the field. They seem to believe in themselves. They seem to believe in the broader cause. And I think if you watch them throughout the season, what you thought was that he has elevated them to, a spot where they can compete and often beat, kind of middle of the road, good, not great SEC programs, and that there remains a really big gap between them and the elite of the SEC. I think that's, sort of generally what you'd say. And it sure as hell seems like, he always says like it's Footmas season, right? And it sure seems like he's winning a lot of recruiting battles, getting guys to get off of Michigan to go to Missouri. I mean, it just, I don't know, man. The signs are there that this thing is absolutely moving in the right direction. They've got probably more challenges than it might look on the surface right now, but that's where I would bet my money if this was a thing that we could go to Vegas with. Because I believe in that guy, and I guess like maybe more notably, I believe that the people around him believe in that guy, and there just seems to be a lot of positive energy right now around Mizzou.
I think it's a good way of putting it. I think when you think about the programs that need to be scaled for these things to happen, Missouri's got to get past Georgia and Florida. Tall task, absolutely. Kansas State would have to get past Oklahoma, Texas, Oklahoma State. All teams that have proven to be really something. Maybe Iowa State now with what Matt Campbell's done at that program. In Kansas, got to find a way to get over to Texas Tech. Who else is coming back to the pack in the Big 12? I don't know. Not TCU, not West Virginia. No, I don't know. I don't know. So I'm with the group that says I think we'll see a first place finish from the Wildcats or Tigers before the next bowl game at KU. All right, two quick ones to round it out. Here's 2020 was the last competitive season in Kansas City for Alex Gordon and Matt Besler. And I'm wondering, I think their careers, they both won championships and were prominent figures in the championships won by their teams in the last decade. And I'm wondering, what is the most appropriate way of honoring those two athletes? Or should they be honored beyond the normal, just in the team's Hall of Fame, which will eventually happen, or honor roll, however a team decides to do it? Is there something? What's the most appropriate way to honor Matt Besler and Alex Gordon? Sam, what do you think?
I think Dayton has either said or heavily insinuated that there will be some sort of Alex Gordon Day at Kauffman Stadium in 2021. I wonder about, the Gordo Nation deal, if they can keep that running. My thought just goes to statues. And I think that the Royals, I think the coolest way of them to, sort of remember, 2014 and 15 is instead of just like men, a statue of George Brett, outside the gate or whatever. I think it's moments. I think that they can sort of freeze moments with statues. And to me, one of the biggest moments, it would be an Alex Gordon statue, but it's him rounding the bases, bubble coming out of his mouth, and pointing to the sky after the homer off of Familia. I think that would be absolutely appropriate. I'm not a person that believes in statues of living people. I think that we've seen that go the wrong way too many times. But to me, that's more of a, and as hard as it is to believe Alex Gordon might be the least controversial sports figure in recent Kansas City history, although Patrick Mahomes might be chasing him. But anyway, I think that would be, to me, that would be a statue of a moment, more than a man. And Matt Besler, there seems to be, I don't think everything's not like completely rosy between Matt Besler and Sporting Kansas City the way that it is between Alex Gordon and the Royals. And I don't think it's anything that can't, be worked through eventually. But I don't know that there'll be a Matt Besler Day at Children's Mercy Park in 2021. Maybe sometime down the road. And if I was Sporting, I think Matt Besler is a smart guy. And I think that he genuinely cares about Kansas City and soccer. And I would almost offer him whatever job he wants. Like, do you want to run the youth program? Do you want to have a bigger vision and spread the game you love in the community you love? Here's the keys to the car. I don't know if he wants to be a scout. I don't know if he wants to be a coach someday. I know he wants to play in the short term, and good for him. But eventually, I think it would be appropriate for him to have a real lasting part of that franchise.
What do you think, Vahe?
Blair, I wouldn't add too much. That's so well thought out on all those fronts. I think Sam makes a great point about guys of sort of stature, but we have seen some statue questions overall, and with how those things can play out while people are still alive. Again, I'm not insinuating anything with these guys, but it's an interesting point. It just occurred to me as we were thinking about this. Obviously, Alex Gordon did not grow up here, but he grew up here in baseball. And obviously, Matt Besler did grow up here. And I think that's the interesting common aspect of the two, that they are, basically a hometown feel to either the resurgence of a franchise or really the rise of a franchise in either of those cases. And it's kind of a fascinating 1-2 punch coming off the field in the same year. I do think that Dayton specifically did say there'll be an Alex Gordon Day. For the reason Sam mentioned, I don't know if we're going to see something quite like that with Sporting, but I'll be stunned if Sporting doesn't do something special to acknowledge him. And maybe that is, having him in the fold. That all made me think, by the way, about this. I have no idea what Alex Gordon's future plans are right now. It's not like, he's our age, Blair. I mean, he's got a long life in front of him.
It is a weird thing, like these athletes, when they retire, and you can see him on the field. Like Alex Gordon was an old man you know what I mean? Like, yeah. You could see that, but then, God, he's 34 or 35? He's retired and he's made many, many million. I mean, I think this is accurate that Patrick Mahomes is the only Kansas City athlete who's made more money than Alex Gordon in Kansas City.
That seems right. That seems right. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think the answer is like whatever the hell he wants to do is what he's going to do. And it sounds like he wants to golf, which is an odd fit. Seems to me. I don't picture Alex Gordon as a golfer, but I think he wants to golf and be a dad. And I could absolutely see him, like, he's got 3 boys, if I'm not mistaken. Coaching those teams the way that George Brett coached a lot of his kids' teams. When they were growing up here in Kansas City. So, I mean, I think the answer is whatever the hell he wants to do. But I don't see Alex like being a manager or a hitting coach or anything like that. But I do think that he'll want to be involved in baseball in some way.
Yeah, I think I've always had the idea, and Sam, I know you've had it as well. The collection of great moments from 14 and 15 statue. Salvi reaching out for the for the pitch that that went down the third base line in the wild card game. The Yudano Ventura, a Lorenzo Cain with a diving catch, Alex Gordon with his arm extended after hitting the home run off of Familia. Somehow represent Glass, Moore, Yost, and just not a singular statue, but a collection of all those moments. I think would be an appropriate way to honor Alex Gordon and the teams of 14 and 15, and I agree that the front office position at some point will be an appropriate place for Matt Besler. I think he absolutely is a one of the great Kansas City athlete success stories, and it would be a shame if his talents as a leader in the sport went somewhere else and not in the community where he grew up. And I hope he let him get his competitive juices out next year or two, whether he wherever he ends up. But I really hope he comes back to Kansas City and influences soccer in his post-soccer career as he did in his soccer career. Okay, final question. I've kept you guys way too long. I really appreciate your time. And it's a simple one. Do the Chiefs win the Super Bowl in 2021? Sam, we'll start with you. Just a simple yes or no?
Yeah, I would take the field. So I guess that means that I'm a no, even though I do believe that they're the best team. Although I do think that the gap between them and the Packers, for instance, is not huge at all. I would take the field. Most of that is just the randomness of football. There's just a lot of things that can happen. But some of that is, some of these issues with the offensive line, some of these other flaws that we've seen. But I do think they're the best team. But if you're offering me the field, I'm going to take the field.
Blair, at the risk of being like the old Saturday Night Live character, just automatically saying the Bears on this, I do feel like I think they're going to win, and obviously that requires being the best team and getting the breaks, and we don't know what that looks like yet. I've convinced myself that winning these games the way they have the last 7 games is sort of some kind of coating on them, like that it makes them stronger. But that argument could break down. They keep playing with fire and they keep finding a way to come through. What is that going to mean in the end? We'll see. One thing, though, a side point I want to make is that Sam Mellinger and I were kicking this around the other day, and there's a picture of us, the group of us in the press box at the Super Bowl, that I believe is the last time we were all in a press box together. I know we were over at the Big 12 tournament, and that Blair and I have created our own little press box at the Star on game days. But for many reasons, including how good it would be for the city, but also just the chance to share that space with you guys again. I hope it comes to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cosign Vahe, that's for sure. 538.com gives the Chiefs a 33% chance to be the Super Bowl champ, but that is by 10 percentage points, at least 10 percentage points, the highest total for a Super Bowl team. But I don't know. Maybe I'd feel differently if I'd seen them win a little more convincingly these last few weeks. To take nothing away from the quality of victory that the Miami and New Orleans games are for the Chiefs. I don't know. There's just something about who knows? Surprise us all and play just lights out great in the playoffs. Not fall behind by double digits in playoff games this year and just
Right.
take those games by the throat and do the opposite. But I'd have to say no right now. So, all right, guys, terrific conversation. And I got to say that it is as tough a year as 2020 has been. One of the joys for me continues to be working with both Sam and Vahe, 2 of the all-time pros, and look forward to having more conversations with you guys in 2021.
Absolutely. Sounds good, man.
Yeah, right back at you, Blair. It's gotten us through the year in a lot of ways. Thanks so much for having us.
Take care, guys. That'll do it for today. Thanks to our production staff and everyone who helps make this happen. Derek Donovan, Beth Welsh, Monty Davis, Todd Feedback, Randy Mason, Jeff Rosen, Chris Fickett, and Savannah Smith. A tip of the cap to Sam Mellinger and Vahe Gregorian for stopping by and talking sports with me. Links to their stories can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, we got another good deal for you, especially for those who want a deep dive into the Stars' terrific Chiefs coverage. For a limited time, you can subscribe to Sports Pass for 99 cents a month. That's right, 99 pennies a month. After 3 months, it auto-renews at $5.99 a month unless you cancel. And I said Chiefs coverage, but it's all coverage, right? Royals, Chiefs, Sporting, KUMU, K-State, you get it all. But how do you do it? You go to kansascity.com/sportspass2020. That's kansascity.com/sportspass2020. Do you want more than just sports coverage? I know I do. Check out the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports news, features, commentary, and analysis, the whole thing. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional news, sports, and business coverage with the e-edition. The details for all of these deals can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. If you're having trouble hunting down any of these offers, send me an email at bkirkhoff@kcstar.com and I'll get you to the right place. So whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Hey, this wasn't our last show of the year. We'll talk Chiefs tomorrow on Thursday, and then we'll call it a week. But it does give me an opportunity to thank even more folks, and it's those that I work with. These folks find time to join me on the podcast, and it would not work without their spirit of cooperation. So, thank you, Sam McDowell, Herbie Tiopi, Lynn Worthy, Jesse Newell, Gary Bedore, Kellis Robinette, Soichi Terada, Pete Gradhoff, and Sean Goodwin. I'll be talking to all you again soon.